The story begins aboard an alien spaceship, where an extraterrestrial dog is playing with a ball in the hallways. By accident, the ball strikes a control panel, causing the animal to be launched in an escape pod that eventually crash lands on Earth. When a camper finds him in the desert, she approaches and, believing he is injured, decides to help him. 15 years later, a mother gives her son Danny a puppy named Charlie. Excited, the boy goes outside to play with his new friend, but things quickly take a turn when Putty, the neighbor's cat, pops his balloon. Charlie growls at him to defend his owner, and from that moment on, the two animals begin a rivalry filled with pranks and mischief. As the years pass, Charlie and Danny become inseparable and settle into a daily routine. However, when Danny starts going to school, the dog, now quite old, waits for him every day. The problem is that after greeting him, Danny goes inside the house, and Charlie no longer has the strength to follow him, so he sadly returns to his doghouse. Concerned about his pet's condition, Danny tells his mother what has been happening. While she tries to reassure him, a strange glow appears inside one of the drawers in the house, although nobody seems to notice it. At the same time, Charlie spots a green light shining from a cloud in the sky. Shortly afterward, Putty starts bothering him again, and Charlie begins barking at him. At that moment, a massive green beam of light appears out of nowhere and carries both animals away without anyone noticing. Once aboard the spaceship, Charlie is examined by an alien prince, who says he likes him and orders that he be placed in a pet cage. Putty, on the other hand, is locked in a different cage because the prince dislikes his behavior. As Charlie looks around at the other captured creatures, he tries to understand why they are all there. The next morning, Danny discovers that his dog is missing and asks his mother where he is. Since she has no idea either, she tells him to hurry up or he will miss the school bus. Before leaving, the boy places a few treats inside Charlie's doghouse for when he returns. Meanwhile, the alien prince continues trying to choose a pet when he is interrupted by the arrival of his mother, the queen. Seeing that he still cannot make up his mind, she changes the appearance of one of the creatures to help him. Even so, the prince remains unsatisfied, and as soon as she leaves, he begins using his powers to transform all the animals. Charlie and Putty are affected as well, but neither of them manages to impress him. Eventually, the prince decides to throw all the creatures out of the spaceship. The queen stops him just in time, rescues the animals, and scolds him for what he has done. She then declares that he does not deserve a pet and uses her powers to return every creature to its place of origin. When Charlie regains consciousness, he finds himself back in his yard and is thrilled to have returned home. The following morning, Danny finds him standing in front of him and happily hugs him after having him back. He then asks Charlie never to disappear like that again. But then something incredible happens. Charlie answers him as if he were a person. Startled, Danny asks how that is possible. The dog admits that he does not know, but shortly afterward they both discover that he has also become several years younger. Realizing this, they celebrate excitedly together. Meanwhile, next door, Putty watches Danny and Charlie celebrating their reunion and becomes consumed with jealousy. His owner is a lazy man who barely pays attention to him, so, tired of the poor treatment, he decides to get revenge. Using the powers he gained from the aliens, he controls several objects with telekinesis and hurls them at his owner to scare him. At the same time, Charlie and Danny discover that the dog has developed other abilities as well. In addition to being able to talk, he can fly and possesses extraordinary strength. The next day, before leaving for school, Danny asks Charlie not to use his powers in public or talk in front of other people, since they have no idea how the world would react. Charlie agrees, but as soon as he is left alone, he begins hearing cries for help coming from all over the city and realizes that he has super hearing as well. Later, while riding the school bus, Danny notices that his classmates are watching a viral video. When he takes a closer look, he discovers that it shows Charlie rescuing people throughout the city. Worried, he decides to talk to him. Charlie apologizes and explains that he simply could not ignore people who needed help. Danny then comes up with a solution, creating a costume to hide his identity. Once the outfit is finished, Charlie, now transformed into Superdog, takes to the skies happier than ever. That night, while resting in his doghouse, he hears the cries of people involved in an accident. When he arrives at the scene, he discovers that a bus is about to plunge into a massive sinkhole. Using his ability to fly and his super strength, he manages to save the vehicle and is immediately greeted with applause from the crowd, all of whom want to know who he is. Forgetting that he is supposed to keep his identity secret, Charlie reveals his real name and then returns home worried about how Danny will react. However, as the days pass, the dog becomes increasingly famous online, and Danny eventually feels happy seeing his friend receive so much recognition. One day, while they are talking in the yard, Charlie spots an airplane that is about to crash. He quickly puts on his costume and rushes to the rescue. Thanks to his incredible speed, he even has time to buy a few tacos before reaching the scene. He then prevents the plane from crashing and safely guides it to a landing in the middle of the desert. The feat turns Superdog into a national celebrity. Shortly afterward, he even appears alongside the President of the United States during a press conference. However, during the event, the President claims that she has known Charlie for years and announces the launch of a new dog food brand associated with him. The product becomes an instant success and causes complete chaos in supermarkets. Meanwhile, Putty demands that his owner show him what food he bought. When he discovers that the man could only find cans of the new Superdog brand, the cat becomes furious. His owner explains that there were no other options left because the enormous success of the new product drove the competing companies out of business. Realizing that Charlie is becoming more popular every day, Putty decides to get revenge once again. Using his powers, he hurls several cans at the neighboring house and causes a tree to crash onto the roof. When Danny returns home, he finds the damage, and shortly afterward Charlie arrives to figure out what happened. While they are trying to make sense of the situation, they receive a call from the President, who informs them that someone has hacked one of the country's satellites. What nobody knows is that Putty is responsible. Now that he controls the satellite, the cat alters its course and sends it hurtling toward Earth. Charlie immediately blasts off into space and uses all his strength to stop it. However, Putty activates the satellite's thrusters and changes its trajectory once again, sending it directly toward the International Space Station. Without wasting a second, Charlie flies after the satellite and manages to prevent the collision by pushing it off course and shutting down its thrusters. The effort, however, proves too much for him. Because of the lack of oxygen, he loses consciousness and begins plummeting through space at incredible speed. Seeing him in danger, Danny shouts that he has some treats waiting for him. Surprisingly, that is enough to wake Charlie up and help him regain control before drifting off into the void. Shortly afterward, the dog is rescued and taken to the hospital. Danny rushes to see him and is relieved to learn that he is fine and only needs some rest. Meanwhile, back at home, Putty is peacefully lounging on the couch when a small kitten appears at the window. Trying to help it, his owner opens the window and lets it inside. As the kitten approaches Putty, it comes into contact with a drop of the villain's saliva and gains some of his powers, including the ability to talk. Both the man and the small cat are completely baffled by what has just happened. Later, the owner gives the kitten some food, but the smell makes it sneeze on him, passing the alien mutation onto him as well. When Putty sees his owner starting to behave like a cat, he realizes the true potential of his new powers and decides to create an army. To accomplish this, he begins attracting stray cats with food contaminated by his altered DNA. Once he gathers enough animals, he uses his alien genes to enhance them and selects the most capable ones to help carry out his plans. At that moment, a puppy approaches him and reveals that he also ate some of the contaminated food. He adds that he wants to join the army because he has always preferred cats and agrees with their plans for world domination. Intrigued by the dog's intelligence, Putty agrees to recruit him and orders him to behave like a cat from that moment on. Days later, during a visit to the veterinarian, Superdog receives a call from the authorities. A bank is being robbed, and they need his help. Charlie immediately rushes to the scene, evacuates everyone in danger, and continues searching for possible victims. However, he begins hearing voices coming from inside the vault and decides to open it to help. What he does not realize is that the entire situation is part of a trap set by Putty. The moment he enters the vault, a green gas knocks him unconscious. A few minutes later, he wakes up surrounded by police officers who help him back to his feet. But before he can leave, the officers discover that one of the bank's most valuable diamonds has disappeared. At that moment, one of them arrives carrying a rescued puppy. In reality, it is Putty's new servant, who accuses Charlie of stealing the jewel. Superdog tries to defend himself and insists that he would never do such a thing. He explains that he lost consciousness for a few seconds and has no idea what happened. However, in the middle of the argument, the diamond suddenly falls out of his costume. As difficult as it is to believe, the police have no choice but to arrest him. Later, during the trial, Putty hires a lawyer and presents manipulated evidence designed to frame his enemy. Convinced by the evidence, the judge finds Charlie guilty and sentences him to house arrest. On top of that, he is forbidden from receiving deliveries of premium dog food. The sentence deeply affects Charlie, who begins to believe that he was never a real superhero. Danny does everything he can to cheer him up, but nothing seems to change his mind. Meanwhile, Putty visits the president and claims that he has a plan to recover all the money lost after the collapse of Superdog food sales. Interested in the proposal, she agrees to hear him out. The villain then begins floating through the sky alongside several humans while explaining his idea, relaunching the exact same dog food with new labels and using Putty's popularity to market it. Strange as it may seem, the president accepts Putty's proposal, and within days the entire country is talking about a new superhero, the giant cat himself. However, that is only one part of his real plan. In addition to promoting the new dog food, Putty begins contaminating it with his alien serum and transforming the people who work for him. As more and more humans start behaving like cats, Danny decides to investigate the house of Putty's owner. There, he discovers a computer containing evidence of the plot to destroy Superdog's reputation. Realizing that all of humanity is in danger, he rushes to tell Charlie everything. After analyzing the situation, the two conclude that they need help. They decide to speak with Danny's mother, who is completely shocked when she discovers that Charlie can talk. After hearing the entire story, the dog explains that he gained his powers from a group of aliens. Upon hearing this, Danny's mother suddenly remembers something important. It is then revealed that she was the same camper who found the alien dog in the desert 15 years earlier. As she reviews the photographs Danny took of Putty's operation, she reaches a troubling conclusion: while the cat's DNA is evolving, human DNA is deteriorating, and the situation will only get worse over time. Knowing they must act quickly, Danny and Charlie fly to an abandoned amusement park that appeared in the evidence as a possible hideout for the villain. While they are gone, Danny's mother opens the drawer where she had once seen the strange glow and retrieves a mysterious alien object she has kept hidden for years. Upon arriving at the hideout, Danny and Charlie try to help the humans being held captive by Putty. However, the puppy serving the villain spots them and alerts everyone nearby. As a result, Putty appears alongside dozens of cats to defend his base. After blocking the cans being hurled at him with a massive belch, Charlie tells Danny to handle the cats while he takes on the villain himself. Without hesitation, Superdog launches into the attack and battles Putty high above the amusement park. However, he is eventually caught off guard by a surprise strike from the feline. Meanwhile, Danny races through the park trying to escape the henchman. Just as he is about to be captured, his mother arrives and manages to get him to safety. Shortly afterward, she shows him the alien object and explains that it began glowing on the very day Charlie approached her at her office. Before they can continue the conversation, Putty finds them and hurls several roller coaster cars in their direction. Mother and son narrowly escape, while at the same time Charlie manages to knock the villain down with a powerful punch. But the situation quickly grows worse when Putty's followers capture Danny and his mother, threatening to infect them with the mutating serum if anyone tries to rescue them. At that moment, the villain notices the alien collar hanging around Danny's mother's neck. As he examines it, he accidentally activates a signal that alerts the aliens to their location. Trying to buy some time, Danny suddenly shouts that he has spotted a rat nearby. The distraction works, and his mother takes the opportunity to flee with the collar while several animals chase after her. Charlie and Danny rush to help, recover the object, and manage to escape. However, Putty has no intention of letting them get away so easily. The cat pursues them while hurling every kind of object he can find. Desperate to survive, Charlie and Danny weave through the roller coaster structures to avoid the attacks. Although they nearly fall to their deaths, the dog manages to save his friend at the last second. Immediately afterward, the puppy attempts to disguise himself as a stuffed toy in order to steal the alien collar, but Danny's mother sees through the trick and easily takes it away from him. Furious, Putty begins ripping up the park's tents and even tears apart a massive metal tower, throwing everything he can at them. As the woman desperately runs for her life, Danny and Charlie rush to help her. Just before she is struck, she manages to toss the collar to her son. To protect himself, Danny runs toward the Ferris wheel, but Putty quickly finds him and prepares to attack. Charlie tries to intervene, but the villain threatens to strike the boy with several lampposts if he gets any closer. Even so, Danny refuses to back down and throws the collar, triggering a fierce battle between Putty and Superdog. As they fight over the alien collar, a massive burst of energy lights up the entire area, while Danny's mother rushes to get her son off the Ferris wheel. Although Charlie tries to stop him, Putty manages to recover the collar. However, before he can use it, a gigantic spaceship suddenly appears in the sky. Moments later, a UFO descends in front of the group, and everyone is stunned by the arrival of the alien queen. When she notices the collar, the queen intimidates Putty with her powers, and the cat quickly claims that the object belongs to Danny's mother. The alien then turns to her and asks how it ended up in her possession. The woman explains that many years ago, she found a small extraterrestrial creature after a spaceship crash. She tried to take care of it, but the animal did not survive its injuries and eventually disintegrated, leaving behind only its tracking collar. After hearing the story, the queen thanks her for trying to help her lost pet. At that moment, the alien prince arrives. When he sees Putty in his supervillain form, he immediately decides that he wants him as a pet. The queen agrees and allows the giant cat to be taken aboard the spaceship. As a result, Charlie watches as his greatest enemy leaves Earth alongside the troublesome prince. With the conflict finally resolved, the queen announces that she will fix all the problems caused by the aliens. She releases a powerful wave of energy that reverses the mutations. Thanks to this, both humans and animals return to normal. However, Danny soon discovers that Charlie has also lost his powers and has become the elderly dog he once was. Although he is relieved to see that his friend is safe and healthy, he notices Superdog's cape lying on the ground and realizes that the world still needs its hero. He then asks the queen to restore Charlie's abilities. Touched by how much Charlie means to the boy, the queen decides to give his powers back. Happy to know they will still have many years together, Danny hugs his best friend. Before leaving, the queen asks them to continue taking care of one another, and shortly afterward the aliens depart Earth aboard their spaceship. Several days later, Danny and Charlie are working from their new command center when they receive news of an approaching hurricane. Without hesitation, Superdog takes to the skies once again to help those in need. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this movie.